A lack of information around addiction and mental health issues has led to a lot of confusion. Heroes in Recovery is here to set the record straight and break the stigma through the power of storytelling and by celebrating the heroic efforts of those who walk this road of recovery every day. Our movement is built on the personal journeys of survivors, shining a spotlight on the disease of addiction and creating a global community of support. Go to heroesinrecovery.com to share your story, read hundreds of others, or join us for a 6K race. Together, we can break the stigma.
Yo, what's up? This is Jacoby from Papa Roach.
This is Ryan Lee.
This is Wes.
This is Bob Force.
This is Rich Roll, and you're listening to Sober Guy Radio.
Yo, what's up? Thanks for tuning in today. Thanks to Humans for bringing us in. Thanks to you for supporting the show. Welcome to Sober Guy Radio. We're coming live to you from the Innovations in Recovery Conference down in San Diego, California. Be sure to check us out at www.thatsoberguy.com for past episodes, resources. You can contact us, and you can also help us help by supporting the show there. Now, if you have any questions about whether you or a loved one may need help, you can contact Foundation's Recovery Network at 877-714-1318. They have nationwide residential and outpatient facilities, and they can provide a confidential assessment and review the best treatment options for your situation. Really great people. And once again, thanks to Foundations for having us down here to do some live podcasting. We're having a damn good time, that's for sure. So let me give you that number one more time. That's 877-714-1318. All right, we're talking today with Lauren Silvinski from the Phoenix. And Lauren is the Director of Programs and Partnerships for the Phoenix in Orange County, California. And the Phoenix is a nonprofit organization that fosters a sober, active community for individuals recovering from substance use disorder and who choose to live sober. All kinds of cool stuff from CrossFit, climbing, yoga, running, backpacking, which is one of my favorites. I know I've talked about that a lot on the show. So Lauren, it's nice to have you. Thanks for stopping by today. How are you?
Thanks a lot, Shane. I'm great. I'm great. Glad to be here.
Yeah, good stuff. So tell us a little bit about yourself first. We're going to get into the Phoenix, and you guys have some really awesome programs. I'm excited to learn about that. But you're also in recovery yourself, and so I think maybe we should start there and tell us a little bit about who you are and some of your story.
Sure. So I'm a person in long-term recovery, and I grew up in Chicago. Nice. I went to high school in Chicago. Go Cubs.
Chi-town.
Yeah, love Chicago. And I learned very early on that alcohol is a great solution for feelings that I was feeling that I didn't want to let out and things like that. I can remember, the first time I really drank for the effect of alcohol was to completely escape my family.
Yeah.
And it just provided all this relief for me. Yeah. And so I went on to college in Boston. I was fortunate enough in college that I could still dial back the drinking a little bit to pass my tests and things like that and manage to graduate.
So you had it under control.
Yeah, I was completely under control.
Yeah. Got this.
Yeah, I got this. But during that time, I developed some really bad relationships with my body, with other people, and just sort of things were starting to completely fly off the handle. But I graduated, so everybody thought I was fine.
Yeah. Where'd you go to college?
Boston University.
Oh, nice.
So, and I got a degree in biochemistry, which people are like, what'd you do that for?
Yeah, that's crazy. How hard was that to get?
Yeah, it was very challenging.
You
can imagine going to labs with a hangover every day was not fun.
No way.
But yeah, so after I graduated, I moved back to California. My family was in California. I was born in California.
Okay.
And then a couple years later, was with a boyfriend who introduced me to cocaine, which was like gasoline on a fire, as you can imagine.
Oh, yeah.
And it was on, within a year I was a daily cocaine user, and just slowly, or rather quickly, actually ruining my life, and all kinds of negative consequences, as you can imagine. And
it's one of the worst drugs.
Yeah,
I mean, they're all bad. Don't get me wrong, but
Yeah.
like the chase of that drug too is just like I hate even having those recollections of those nights, of that. I don't mean to bring that up, but it's just, even when you talk about it, I'm just like, holy shit.
It's like a nightmare. And
it is.
And this morning, I went on a run with a bunch of sober people, and like the topic of cocaine came up, and all of us were like, man, we loved that. It's like, how did we love something that was so horrible and just such a nasty experience?
Well, think about that too. You're up that early running. Mm-hmm. I'm sure, I know I have, I'm guessing you have too, many of those nights where you're up all night and you see the sun come up and you're still awake from partying that night before.
Or still partying.
Or still partying, because, and the sad thing, eventually, that high has to come down. What goes up comes down, obviously, and that's like the worst part about it,
Yeah, so I quit doing cocaine. It was I quit it, and I was like, this is ruining my life.
Yeah.
But the problem was I was left with a severe depression, and so I was self-medicating with a bottle of vodka every day, and that's when I really went to a dark place in my life, and eventually waved the white flag and asked for some help, and wound up in treatment, and that was 11 years ago. And,
was that the first time? Was that, you said you waved the white flag?
Yeah.
First time you were done?
So I went to treatment, and I didn't always stay sober. I relapsed a few times. I struggled a little bit, but that was like the first time that I really was like, oh my God, I can't do this anymore.
What made you finally realize that you had like a problem, or that like, where was that admittance or acceptance?
I mean, I think I knew. I mean, it was pretty clear. I never thought I would be a person doing drugs. I went to a nice high school. I had a good family. I went to a good college. Like, this isn't drugs were for like bad people.
Yeah, I'm not like them.
I'm not like them. And so, as soon as I slid down that scale, I realized, that I was in trouble. But I didn't want to let go of alcohol, and I didn't want to let go of my friend that that had provided me so much solace for so long, and didn't want to let go of that. And so there was a lot of stigma. There was a lot of stigma blocking me from getting help. My mom even said to me one time, I don't want you to be one of those people.
One of those people in
one
recovery.
Of those people.
That's so crazy.
Well, or I don't want you to be stigmatized by going to rehab and by being AA's a cult, and there was a lot of stigma just within, the person that was closest to me, just my mother, and then also, just in my own general view of like
those
what
people.
Recovery is and what that would mean. And so I did struggle for a bit with that, and part of my work with the Phoenix, which we'll get into, is about stamping that stigma down and about reducing that stigma. And it's such an important part of the work for me because that stigma held me back from getting help for so long. Yeah.
So you said you have 11 years?
It's been an 11-year journey, but I drank about 4 years ago for the last time. So,
Congrats.
Yeah, thanks.
That's cool.
Yeah,
we're actually close to that. I have 5 years in September, so
awesome.
We're right on the same page. Well, cool. Let's get into and thank you for sharing a little bit about yourself. It's always cool to hear like a little background, and it's funny like too how a lot of us come from different backgrounds, from different parts of the world or country. We were raised all differently, but we just like have that one thing in common, that little switch that once it goes on, it's really hard to turn off. And I think if we talk about on a recovery basis, man, I've met so many great people through recovery that I probably never would have had an opportunity to meet or, to talk with, just because we're different, but we have this one thing that brings us all together. And I think there's a lot of room, I think it's a great example of how we can come together as a people, you know what I mean? Just in general, pretty neat.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the Phoenix, tell us a little bit about the Phoenix, tell us how you got started with it first.
So back 11 years ago when I was getting sober and I was in aftercare of treatment and things like that, they told me get a get well job, and I was like, well, okay, I don't know what that is, but I really like this gym I'm going to every day. And so I got a job at the gym. I didn't know what else to do. It was great because I couldn't afford a gym membership, and then I didn't need to pay for one because I worked at a gym. And so that's when fitness became a huge part of my life. And of course, being new in recovery, I overdid it.
Like how?
I would work out like twice a day, 8 days a week, and just out of control. And it did help me with a lot of things. It helped me get off antidepressants. It helped me. feel okay, you know, for a little while I was working out and things like that I might be able to do this sobriety thing.
How did it help with the antidepressants? That's always a topic that I'm interested in, and I've had some family who have been able to get off of them too, but it's been a struggle sometimes.
Yeah, and I mean, of course, you know, if you're out there and on antidepressants, that's okay, and
totally,
you know, and it's very helpful. And I always talk to your doctor. But there have been a lot of studies that exercise is just as effective as antidepressants in certain individuals, and that if you combine the two together, it's even more effective. And you know, ever since I started seeing psychologists after quitting doing cocaine, and I was so depressed. They were trying one antidepressant after another and stacking one on top of the other, and I was on all these medications, and it just wasn't helpful for me. So exercise helped me kind of get beyond some of that, and eventually quit smoking.
Especially if you're doing it 8 days a week and through 3 times a day, just mad push-ups and squats and running miles. And
I mean, I mentioned that because, you know, I'm a huge advocate for living your life in balance. And you know, balancing out how much exercise you do with other things in your life, and things like that. So that's how I got into the fitness industry, and just kept growing my career in fitness. I got certified as a personal trainer. I was always very interested in nutrition, so I got certified as a holistic nutrition and health coach, which was a huge turning point for me as well. They taught me really about balance and about mind, body, and spirit connection, which was amazing. And so I felt like, and I got to a point where, you know, I was eating right, I was exercising right for me, I was doing a lot of yoga, I was doing a lot of spiritual practices that worked for me, and I felt like I had this huge secret that exercise and diet helped me stay sober. And I'm like, why is nobody talking about this? You know, why is this not like a part of treatment? And it is for some treatment centers, but you know, why isn't this, you know, well known? And so I had a calling to go find a path to help people in recovery learn more about exercise and things like that, and I found the Phoenix by pure dumb luck.
Really? Isn't it crazy how that happens like that?
I mean, it's definitely you know, my higher power and all that working in my life, you know, like the universe always does. And so
would you say like almost the Phoenix found you in a sense?
Yeah, in a way. It was like I read the job description. I'm like, they wrote this about me. Because I found it on Indeed.
They want to ask, I'm totally working for these guys. You know?
I found it on a job posting, and I was like, I have to get this job. And I looked at their website, and I went and took a class there, and I did an interview, and I was like, oh my God, if I don't get this job. And I was like, you know, going into nonprofit, I knew that it was going to be a totally different shift from what I had been doing, but I had to work there. So it was amazing.
So was that out of, did you have to move or whatever once you got the job, or?
No, that's the thing. It was right there in Orange County, just sitting there waiting for me. So I was working at a gym in Tustin, and this job was like right down the street in Costa Mesa. So so we have the Phoenix has about 10 chapters nationwide, where as you mentioned, we're doing CrossFit, we're doing boxing, we're doing yoga and things like that. And so Orange County has one of those physical chapters where it's a gym that people can go to. Nice. We have other types of programming too that we do all across the country, which I can get into, but
now, do people just show up at the gym and they can? And I know in the description one of the requirements was to have 48 hours sober, right? Or that's
correct.
That way, you're not coming in drunk trying to run a couple miles. You might die. Don't do that shit.
Yeah, you might die, and you might trigger some other people in the room. So
try to stay sober.
Yeah, so that's the requirement. And then of course we ask if people commit to Phoenix and keep coming to Phoenix, we ask them to commit to a sober lifestyle. So that also includes people who may not have suffered from substance use disorder, but may be supporters of the recovery movement, or just choosing that sober lifestyle for themselves, or supporting a loved one who's also coming to Phoenix. So we welcome. We welcome that. We welcome all pathways to recovery. So whatever people are doing outside of Phoenix, we encourage them do that.
Yeah,
great,
sure.
whatever it takes to stay sober. And then come to us for some community, some fun, how to meet some friends, and to get some fitness. So people can come, they can just show up. We do have specific class times, so it's the type of gym where we run classes. We have open gym times too, but it's not like 24-hour fitness.
That's what I was going to ask you, like, what does a normal day look like at the gym? Like what, classes, open gym, sessions, like what does that look like?
Yeah, so in Orange County, we have open gym for a couple hours in the middle of the day, like 11 to 1, so people can come on their lunch breaks, or, if people are working a part-time job, they have somewhere they can go hang out. In Orange County, there's a really dense population of sober living homes, treatment centers, and things like that. So Phoenix really answers that question of, well, what's next? Where do I go? What do I do? We help people kind of fill that time and be in a safe place. And then in the evening we might have a CrossFit class followed by a yoga class, and stuff like that in the evening. And there's something really powerful that happens with group fitness. I mean, one, just the transformational power of getting a barbell over your head for the first time, or getting up on that rock climbing wall, is really personally powerful. But then there's nothing quite like common suffering of being on the floor doing burpees and like dying through a fitness class.
I hate those things. That's why I haven't done them in a long time.
But it creates community, and it creates bonds. Like you were saying before, with people that you might not otherwise know, you might not have otherwise met, but all of a sudden, you're making plans to go for a run on the weekend or something like that together.
No, and you've said it a couple times now, and I talk about this a lot on the podcast, and I feel like all the time just how important community is. Like, who are we surrounding ourselves with? What environments are we putting ourselves in? And that thing, I know for me, has been huge. A lot of people will write in and they'll ask, I'm in early recovery. What do I do? I can't go back to some of those old things. Well, we got to surround ourselves with positive things and positive people. And I know sometimes it's easier said than done, but just a little bit at a time. And like you're saying, start with exercise. You know what I mean? That's a huge, huge part. One of the other things I wanted to mention too, you talked about, after doing drugs or cocaine or any drug at that, you're going to have a lot of people, I know I did too, suffer depression afterwards because those serotonin levels get depleted, like they're wiped out. So that high, it's really hard to attain. Well, with exercise, I know for me, after I go on a run or after I do some squats or something, which I need to get my ass back to the gym, by the way, so I'm not trying to front right now. It's been a rough last couple of months.
You'll get there.
Yeah, I'm going on Monday. I'm going to go next week. I'll be there. No, but that type of activity, that's what makes me feel good, and it helps to bring those serotonin levels back up in my brain, and I actually feel good.
Yeah, it's so helpful, and the endorphins that we get when we're exercising, it's never going to be that high of whatever your drug of choice was. It's never going to be that like skyrocket. However, those feel good hormones and everything that are going on can help reduce cravings for that bigger high. So it's really helpful to help sustain that long-term recovery. And then of course with the Phoenix, you get the social connection on top of it. Which is also so important for sustained recovery.
What do you think about yoga and meditation? How is that huge in recovery?
Well, I think I do think it's huge. Or
what do you think about it?
I just think it's so important to get in touch with the mind-body connection. And so, when we're out there using drugs or alcohol, we're very disconnected. We're disconnected from our own bodies, we're disconnected from our true self, and we're disconnected from other people. And so I think getting back in tune with, how do I actually feel today? I drank because I didn't want to face my emotions. I was taught to stuff those down, and so, just allowing things to come up and be cognizant of what's going on in my mind today, what's going on in my body today, how do I feel? What do I actually need today? When you do that, you can get in touch with what your actual needs are rather than having these off the wall, out of control cravings that you can't control and you're forced to give into, which is what happens with addiction. So
one of the other questions I have, I'm pretty open about this, especially in the past couple of podcasts. I've been struggling with food because it's not alcohol or drugs, thank God, but sugar is a drug, right? I'm not an expert about sugar, but I know it makes me feel like shit after I eat it, but it tastes so damn good. Oh, sugar, and so point being, you have a lot of experience in this, in a professional point of view. How important is diet and wellness with regard to what we eat, and not only just in recovery, but just in general too?
Yeah, that's a great question because I get that a lot, and I think so many people struggle with with sugar, not just people in recovery, but people across the board. And my advice is always just eat real food. But similar to what we were just talking about with the mind-body connection, when you're in tune with your body and what you actually need, your body will tell you what to eat. Your body will intuitively know what you should be eating if you can listen to it. The problem is sugar comes in and hijacks it, right? And so it causes this vicious cycle that, and then you're continuously craving and everything like that. But if you feed your body real food over and over and over again, eventually your body's going to tell you what to eat. And somebody was just asking me the other day, and I said, and I stole this from probably a meme or something like that, but it's like, if it comes from a farm, eat it. If it was made in a, I forget.
If it
was made in a lab, don't eat it. But that isn't the meme. But if it came from nature, eat it.
Yeah.
But I just think, when for people that are new in recovery, a lot of times it's hard to focus on something like that, and that might not be the most important task of the day.
Yeah.
It's like
one thing at a time.
It's like one thing at a time, and just listen to your body and try to feed it and try to treat yourself right. If you truly want to treat yourself with love, which is one of the things we need to learn to do in recovery, is how to love ourselves. You don't want to feed your body crap, but at the same time, you also don't want to beat yourself up.
Yeah.
If you eat some stuff that's not the healthiest, For sure. Because that's counterproducthere also.
Absolutely. And that's one thing I have definitely gotten better at, is giving myself grace. Even as a kid, playing sports and stuff, there was nobody harder on me than me. And that's probably still true till this day, although, it's a process, and you got to give yourself a little bit of grace in that. Mm-hmm. So what are some of the most popular programs? What's one or two of the most popular programs at the Phoenix? I'm just curious. Is it boxing? What is it?
Yeah. It's my class, of course, the one that I teach.
Of course it is, Lauren. Yes, that's a great I knew it. I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah. No, the boxing actually is really cool. We only have boxing once a week, but there's this little community that has just really risen up through boxing.
Yeah.
And then there's also this CrossFit community that's really drawn to CrossFit. And so they're doing the CrossFit. And then we have our more outdoorsy people that are going to the rock climbing and things like that. And it's really kind of cool. There's people that go to all of it. There's people that are at every single class every single day, cool. Which is really fun. But it's really kind of cool how each program has its own little community of people. And the events like rock climbing, for example, only a couple people are on the wall at a time, and there might be 15 people down there below either cheering them on or they're talking to each other and bonding, and it's a very social event. It's almost not even about the rock climbing. It's about hanging out and talking to each other and
just socializing
and doing
each other
something
up
cool.
And stuff. That's pretty bad. Mm-hmm. Well, cool. I'm really grateful that you came and sat and we hung out for a little bit and stuff. Actually, let me ask you this. One last question here, and then we'll talk about where we can find the Phoenix, more information, all that stuff. For someone out there listening right now who's struggling, what can you tell them?
Oh gosh!
I know I'm putting you on the spot right now, but I know you got something good.
Yeah. No, hang in there and explore. Explore all. There's so many different options and resources out there, and there's no one right way to recovery. It's a very personal thing, and just finding what works for you is just so important. And just explore everything out there and just try to keep on
keep
doing
going.
That. Keep going and don't give up. Recovery is possible.
Yep. Lauren, where can folks find more information out about the Phoenix, or reach out to you, or if they want to get any more info?
Sure. So if you go to thephoenix.org, We have a page that will tell you where all of our different locations are. We're in about 10 different cities nationwide now, and you can click on the events page to see like when the classes are and everything like that. And then my email is lauren@thephoenix.org for anybody that wants to reach out to me. And then we do also have a YouTube channel where you can see testimonials
Nice.
and videos and things like that on YouTube. Just search. The Phoenix doesn't actually search very well.
No.
So because there's so many things that are
Yeah.
named Phoenix, but our old name was Phoenix Multisport. So
Got
if you
it.
search on YouTube for Phoenix Multisport, all of our videos will come up.
Okay, cool. And I think you sent me those links too. So I'm going to put those links in the show notes. So for folks out there listening, all you got to do is go to thatsoberguy.com and you can find the episode there. And you can find the links to thephoenix.org and the YouTube videos, all that good stuff. Lauren, thanks again for coming on Sober Guy Radio.
Awesome. Thanks, Shane.
Yeah, folks, stay tuned. We got more episodes coming to you today and tomorrow. We're live at the Innovations in Recovery Conference in San Diego. And thanks for listening. We're having a great time. And peace, love, and you know it, respect. Keep your blood clean.